Hey everybody, welcome to the On Deck podcast presented by LineStar. I'm Shannon Sommerville. We'll be joined by Tyler Wiemann in just a bit to break down all of your daily fantasy baseball projections for today. We'll also have your prop bets and our daily home run calls. But first things first, we've got some weather to get to today and just 7 games on the docket today. 4 of those are being played in domes and 3 others are pretty minimal weather conditions, but we'll still give you a look at some of them. Pretty favorable conditions at Citizens Bank Park, 62 degrees, a nice 10-mile-an-hour wind out to left should be favorable for hitters in that direction. And some good conditions over at Busch Stadium as well, mild temps, a light breeze across from left to right, so weather not much of a factor here at all. That trend continues in Anaheim, where it's expected to be around 78 degrees and very minimal winds to center. Well, that might have been our shortest weather report this year. Love to see no showers at all on the board. Just some nice weather or in a dome for these games. So not much of a factor there. Now, how was your weekend? I do want to start. We bring in Tyler Wiemann to go over our daily fantasy projections. But before we do that, I saw a very cute tweet over the weekend. This was on Saturday. We're going to throw it up on the screen. Now, who is this?
That is
Padres fan.
That little Padres fan is my daughter Olivia.
Olivia making her debut.
Yep.
That feeling when the Padres beat the Dodgers. What was the picture like on Sunday when she saw Clayton Kershaw?
You really had to bring that up, huh? Yeah, it wasn't quite the same. Some tears, some crying.
It's good child development, though. You've got to learn the wins and the losses.
Yes, the highs and the lows, but at least we got one win out of it.
That's true. All right, let's move into our chalk report for today and start talking daily fantasy, taking a look at a lot of these aces on the hill today because we've got kind of a plethora of great guys to choose from if you're playing daily fantasy. So taking a look at the top owned, of course, Mad Max, one of your top-owned pitchers today, going up against the St. Louis Cardinals. So this is like a homecoming game for him. He went to Mizzou, grew up in St. Louis. So I always love when guys go back home because they're trying to put on for their home crowd and all the family and friends they've got there. 3-0 in the year. Last time out, racked up 10 strikeouts against the Giants, giving up just 1 hit. And Scherzer will be looking to be the first pitcher with 4 wins this season. And the Mets also are on a roll. Can we just give it up for the Mets for a second?
They've been crushing.
They have been doing so well. Have opened this season with 5 straight series wins, matching a franchise record in 2018 So, let's give it.
Jumping New York allegiances? Going to the Mets?
I just like to pay respects when it's called for. Buck Showalter's doing some good things on the Mets. And certainly Max Scherzer is a big factor in that. Now, as far as playing him in daily fantasy, is he going to be worth the money?
He is absolutely worth the money. He's pretty cheap. He's $9,300 on DraftKings and $10.8 on FanDuel. So for those prices, I'd absolutely pay him. The one hesitation is that he's 42% owned on DraftKings, 40% on FanDuel. The only other thing is that St. Louis has only struck out 18.8% versus righties, but they also have a super low 2.9 implied total. It's Mad Max. You don't need to get too cute here.
Right.
He's probably too cheap, and he's a great pitcher.
He's going to put up some great numbers.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Corbin Burns then, another great pitcher, former Cy Young winner today, going up against the Giants at Miller Park. Last time out against the Pirates, Burns gave up 2 earned runs in 7 innings pitched, but 10 strikeouts. Yep. The Giants are top 10 in most strikeouts, tied with the Pirates, interestingly enough. So it could be another outcome of a lot of strikeouts for Burns in this one.
Absolutely. He has a combined K rate of 28%. Just to put it into perspective, Max Scherzer's combined K rate today is 26%. So it is a little bit higher than Scherzer. He is also similarly owned, but he is a little bit more expensive. The Giants' team implied totals 3, but they are a top 10 offense versus righties.
So you're not surprised to see him as one of the top-owned guys. And again, it's another situation of you know what you're getting.
Absolutely. I mean, he's a terrific pitcher, mid-2s ERA and FIP, high K rate. He's a good pitcher, but San Francisco also can hit righties.
Yeah, so that's a good matchup to exploit there. Let's talk about some lower-owned pitchers. Now, Walker Bueller getting the nod for the Dodgers. He's squaring off against the Diamondbacks. This is 10% owned, I saw. Yeah. And the situation here I was looking at, his strikeout rate, yes, has been low. He hasn't been himself in that he even admitted he couldn't really find his fastball. He's using his cutter a lot more. But you just have to love the fact that he's going up against the Diamondbacks, who have the second lowest batting average in Major League Baseball right now. So this could be a great game for him just to kind of get that confidence back, find his fastball again against a team that doesn't really hit well.
Yeah, and versus Arizona all year last year, he averaged like 31.6 fantasy points per game against them. So he's had a lot of success against Arizona in the past. So you're totally right about that. He also, versus Arizona, in 95 plate attempts, they're only hitting 209 against him. The one thing is, like, his numbers aren't as good as Max or Corbin, whereas he has almost a full point higher ERA and FIP. But he does have the much better matchup, as you talked about.
Sure.
Arizona's 20th in the league versus righties. So.
Yeah. Definitely love to exploit those matchups where you can, especially when you can save some money doing so.
Absolutely.
All right. Let's take a look at Jose Berrios, the Blue Jays righty, who's going up against the Red Sox today. He's about 30% owned. And last start at Boston gave up 1 earned run in 6 innings pitched, 6 strikeouts. Seems like Berrios is starting to kind of settle into the season finally. He had that disastrous first start of the season, but then started to kind of settle in. And then last time out against Boston did pretty well. And Red Sox hitting hasn't been that stellar.
They haven't. So
could this be a good matchup for Berrios to earn some fantasy points?
Yeah, Boston's been bottom 5 to start the season versus righties. They have an 80 WRC plus. The one downside is, like you said, they did literally just face him. Yeah. So, they're seeing him for the second time within 2 weeks, which is always a little scary. The other thing is, like, he is 30% owned, which is much higher than I'd like to bring up in a low owned section. But a lot of the pitchers that we have today that are on the lower owned, I just don't really like. So I'm bringing him up. Another person to note is that Kyle Gibson's right around 30% also, and he's super cheap. Him and Gibson are both way too cheap for the type pitchers they are. So it's really why they're here. So
another situation where we're liking the matchup, we like the price point that they're coming in, really, so that you can kind of afford some of the bigger bats.
Exactly, and that's the thing today is that there are so many aces,
right? And
some of them are facing the bottom tier teams.
Sure.
So there's not many kind of value stacks either to sprinkle in there. So a lot of people are going to go one ace in either Berrios or Gibson. It's probably kind of be the chalky build.
So you just talked about stacks, leading us into our highest owned stacks for the day. And we've got Houston, who will be facing Rangers righty Dane Dunning. Now, last outing, Dunning gave up 3 earned runs in just 4 innings pitched. He hasn't lasted past 5 innings pitched this season. And when I was looking at the numbers, Texas bullpen, they've given up the most home runs and the second highest ERA in baseball. So this just screams like, get all the Astros bats on your lineup.
Absolutely. The one thing, though, is that Houston, like we've talked about the last couple of weeks, is they've started off slow.
True.
They're middle of the road versus righties, 98 WRC plus, which ranks about 15th. And the one thing, though, is that Dunning is giving up a lot of hard contact, 43% hard contact. His average exit velocity is right around 90 miles an hour. And Houston, in the past, their lefties have really rocked Dunning. So if you do want the Houston, the lefties are definitely the ones acute to, kind of take and run
Might
with.
be a little bit higher on the price point, though, given that they're
Absolutely, which comes back into lineup construction today is just kind of tricky.
Yeah. So another high-owned stack that we'll get into right now is the Dodgers going up against D-backs righty Merrill Kelly. Now, I don't hate Kelly at all as a pitcher. I think he's done really well this season, and we talked about it the last time he was one of the starters for our pitchers, and he's had retooled some pitches this offseason, and his numbers have been pretty good this year. The D-backs, I mean, the Dodgers, rather, have been awesome, though, offensively. So,
Especially
unfortunately,
yesterday.
yeah, for your Padres, it just seems like they just exploded yesterday and could be coming off that, riding high situation.
Yeah,
and feeling
and
it at the plate.
They exploded on Friday, too. I mean, they're a top 5 offense against righties. Nobody's surprised by that.
Sure.
Also, the BVP data, the Dodgers have absolutely crushed Kelly in the past. Now, like you talked about, this isn't the Kelly that we're used to.
Right.
So his K rate is 9% higher than it was last year. He has more velocity on his pitches. And literally right before we started the show, I saw this tweet that he is 1-0 to start the season. He's at .59 ERA.
Wow.
And it's the lowest ERA in Diamondbacks history through 3 starts.
Wow.
Which is lower than Randy Johnson's 1.01 in 2000.
Throwing it back.
Yeah.
Randy Johnson's, I like that.
So he's absolutely been a little bit different. Can the Dodgers get to him? Yes.
It was his off speed. He's kind of retooled that.
Yes, and
his
he's throwing
velocity's up a bit. Right?
Yeah, his velocity's up almost a mile an hour. His changeup, he's throwing like 8% more than he did last year, and that's really the pitch that's been totally different.
Yeah, and sometimes you do see that with guys when they retool their off-speed stuff, and then all of a sudden it's like their velocity on their fastball increases, which is an interesting trend to note. So for this stacking particular purposes, would you stay away from Dodgers bats, or would you just take that into consideration, especially when you look at the D-backs bullpen?
Yeah,
not that great.
It's not going to scare me away too much. Maybe won't have as much of them as I would because of that, and with them being a little higher owned.
Sure.
But the other thing is they're just going to be hard to get into your lineups with the pitchers on the slate. If you want 2 aces, you're not going to be able to fit them. So it really kind of comes up to the lineup construction.
Sometimes you just got to make some tough decisions. But we'll try to help you with it. Now, speaking of those tough decisions and maybe finding some value in some lower-owned stacks, we're looking at the Phillies going up against Rockies lefty Kyle Freeland. Now, I was looking at Freeland's numbers. Now, he hasn't been terrible when you consider the fact that all of his starts this year have been at Coors Field. However, the wind's blowing out just a little bit at Citizens Bank Park, so that's not going to help his cause.
No.
Neither will the Phillies, who have been just crushing lefties this year. I believe that's the 3rd best versus lefties in the league this year. 145
WRC plus against lefties, which is just crushing.
Yeah. So what else are you seeing from Phillies bats that you like today to exploit in this one?
So Philly isn't going to be unowned by any means. I just think they're going to be underowned based on the Dodgers and
Astros,
Houston. Because both of those are also higher price stacks like Philly. So I think Philly just kind of gets downgraded as far as ownership because of that. But Freeland's giving up 4.4% home runs to righties. Gives up lots of line drives, 38% hard contact. The one downside is that he gives up 50% of a ground ball rate. So he's good at keeping the ball low. So Philly will need to get under it a little bit to really make him pay, but their hitters can absolutely do that.
Absolutely.
And every player in the lineup has pretty much had success against Freeland in the past.
All right. So another team to look for today, Cleveland. The Guardians going up against the Angels. Michael Lorenzen getting the nod for the Halos. Not coming off the best of outings. He against Houston gave up 4 earned runs in just 3 1/3. Cleveland is 3rd in batting average, and watch out, 2nd in slugging in this one.
Also 2nd for WRC plus. They've been great against righties. The other thing is they are really a cheaper stack. They're a cheaper stack.
Are they cheaper? Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Outside of Jose Ramirez, everybody else is kind of middle priced. So you can get them at a little bit of a discount. Lorenzen also, like you said, was really bad that last outing. His first outing, he was okay.
Sure.
But he definitely isn't the caliber of some of the other pitchers we have on the slate
today. Yeah. So definitely some Guardians bats could do the trick.
Yeah. They've been so hot to start the season.
Very hot.
Might as well ride it.
Yeah. All right, so those are your daily fantasy projections. Be sure to double check any weather conditions, even though there really isn't much weather going on today. But double check with us and follow us on Twitter for all of the latest updates on everything you need to know for your daily fantasy lineups. Now it's time, you know it, for our home run calls. Who's going yard today in the ballpark? Where are you headed for your home run pick, Tyler?
I am going with the Phillies. Nick Castianos, in 6 plate attempts, he has a 445 WOBA against Freeland and also a 600 ISO. He also supports a 300 ISO versus lefties, where Freeland gives up a 228 ISO to righties. Simply put,
you're going deep into the stats with this one.
Simply put, Freeland gives up hard contact to righties, and Castianos can hit it.
It's the best when you can find all of the analysis and stats to just back it up, because then you're like, you know what? If it doesn't happen,
it's the math.
The numbers were there. Cold hard math can't steer you wrong. All right, I'm going Jock Peterson in this one, and hear me out. I know we're going up against a former Cy Young winner in Corbin Burns, but this is a lefty bat going up against a righty, and yeah, I'm going to pick against a Cy Young winner. A little risky, but Peterson's been on a tear. 3 home runs in the last week, 780 slugging against right-handed pitching this season, and he's actually 4 for 8 against Burns with a home run. Not a huge sample size, but that's, having that confidence going into the batter's box against Burns. I'm feeling Jock Peterson goes yard today. Remember to follow us on Twitter and retweet our home run calls for a chance to win some cool prizes. Now it is time for our prop bets. Now, we've been crushing the prop bets and the home run calls. I think we've been doing pretty well. So this week, we've got to continue the trend. Where are you headed with your prop bet for today? Are you going hitter or pitcher?
I am going pitcher,
Nice.
And I'm going Mad Max Scherzer for over 7.5 Ks at plus 120. He's done this over the last 6 games versus St. Louis. He's had 8+ in 5 of them. So he's 5-1 with going over 7.5. So I want to hit that at plus money.
Dude's been plus money. Nice.
Plus money.
And dude's been dealing, and I love the fact that he's playing in kind of a hometown situation. Former Mizzou Tiger, going in front of that crowd. I always feel like guys get a little more amped, even though they say they don't. They play, they have the same approach at every field or whatever, or whoever they're playing against. And yeah, for him, it's probably been a while, but you get a little pep in your step when you're, you have family there and crowd's cheering you on a little bit.
Very true.
All right. So my pick for today is I'm going to just keep riding this trend of going up against Corbin Burns, which could be to my demise. We'll find out tomorrow. But I'm going Brandon Belt over half a base, minus 130. This is a lefty bat going up against a righty, so I'm really picking on Corbin Burns. But Belt was 4 for 8 against him, and historically, he had 2 hits yesterday. Now, Belt's the kind of player that sometimes he'll go for a few games without a hit, so this is a bit risky. But I kind of like going up against Corbin Burns. I'm kind of picking on him a little bit today.
You are
which has
taking your
a little
shot.
Bit risky, but we're going to see how that one plays out. But
Risky
I'm going
move.
Brandon
We'll
Belt,
see how this one
the
plays
giraffe.
out.
Let's go. Opening day, I had him for a prop at the beginning of the year simply because he rode into opening day on a boat, which I think is awesome. So
You're just riding that swag.
Just some of the stats that I bring into the prop bets. All right, that's it for us today. As always, you can like and subscribe to us on YouTube. Be sure to follow us at LineStar app and download the LineStar app if you want to optimize your lineup. That'll do it for us. We'll see you tomorrow.
Bye.